Africa urged to adopt Kampala Convention as Deputy Speaker receives Red Cross. Speaker Abbas condemns recent bomb blasts in Maiduguri. And National Assembly set to pass 2026 budget on March 31. Hello and welcome to You and Your Reps, bringing you the key decisions and conversations shaping Nigeria's House of Representatives. I am Victor Azo. Thank you for joining us. We begin by telling you that African countries are being urged to adopt stronger legal frameworks to address the growing humanitarian crisis of internally displaced persons across the continent. At the center of the call is the Kampala Convention, the African Union's legal instrument for the protection and assistance of displaced persons. Nigeria is being highlighted as one of the countries that has taken steps to domesticate the convention, with stakeholders emphasizing the need for wider adoption to ensure a more coordinated and effective response to displacement challenges. The call came during a high-level engagement between the Deputy Speaker and a delegation from the International Committee of the Red Cross in Abuja.
The African Union Convention, which Nigeria has domesticated through the Kampala Convention Domestication and Enforcement Act, recently signed into law by President Bola Tinubu, is designed to address the growing challenge of internally displaced persons across Africa by safeguarding their fundamental rights such as access to security, dignity, food, shelter, healthcare, education, and clean water. The convention is seen as the first legally binding regional treaty focused on tackling internal displacement from the root causes and placing the primary responsibility for preventing displacement and assisting affected populations on national governments and relevant institutions. A major goal is to ensure that displaced persons can voluntarily return to their homes, resettle in another location, or reintegrate into society safely and with dignity. The International Committee of the Red Cross is excited that Nigeria has joined the League of African Nations to domesticate the treaty, saying it is indicative of Nigeria's commitment towards addressing humanitarian crises not only in the country but across the globe.
We still have a lot to do, and domestication of IHN treaty is something that we need now to push for after Kampala Convention. So we would really appreciate your effort and the same energy.
Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu says Nigeria's parliament is prepared to play a leading role in driving implementation across states of the Federation and also rally 21 African nations yet to domesticate the law to do so through the platforms of the African Union and ECOWAS parliaments.
The more we have African countries sign up and domesticate, the more it becomes better, so that we don't want to see displaced persons in Togo running to Nigeria. We don't want displaced persons in Cameroon running to Nigeria because they have not domesticated in their own place. We want them to domesticate so that the welfare of the people there will be sufficient enough for them not to leave the shores of their own place to become refugees in our own country.
There was advocacy for stronger partnerships with non-governmental organizations and development partners to strengthen implementation of policies aimed at protecting displaced populations.
Elsewhere, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has condemned the latest bomb attacks in Maiduguri, Borno State, describing them as heinous and unacceptable. In a statement, the Speaker said the continued attacks, particularly during the holy month of Ramadan, underscore the persistent threat of terrorism. He called for intensified efforts by security agencies and urged collective action to end terrorism, banditry, and other forms of violent crime in the country. You and Your Reps also spoke with Adebayo Adepoju on the amended Electoral Act that sparked an opposition walkout. He addresses the contentious issues.
The issues we have with the Electoral Act are numerous. First of all, we believe that should be a law that should be passed for the people, a law that we believe, an act that we believe should show a lot of fairness, fairness to all political parties, fairness to Nigerians, most importantly. And I think we did not achieve that with the Electoral Act. One of the things we were very concerned about, number one, is the removal of indirect primaries from the options of how candidates can be selected by their respective political parties. We were not happy with that. We believe that that power should be left in the hands of the political parties. The internal democracy in political parties is the business of the parties. We don't want the APC to dictate for other parties. Let the parties do whatever is most convenient for them. And there are reasons why we believe indirect primaries could be a good option for several political parties. Not every party is like the APC. Not every party has the same internal democracy like the APC. For some reasons, we have parties that indirect primaries, can work for them. For example, we in the National Assembly here, we're an indirect representation of the people. Not every Nigerian is in the National Assembly, but we are indirectly representing them. So if we can represent Nigeria indirectly, why can't we select our candidates indirectly? Do we have to have 10 million people or 20,000 people stay at one point to choose? There'll be a lot of rancor. It won't be a smooth process. It might not even be a process that the results can be trusted. Now, if you now say, okay, let's go ahead and do this where we have this done in, for example, choosing a candidate for House of Reps, for example. I have 20 wards in my constituency. What this means is that we have to have this election taking place simultaneously in all 20 wards. Do we really have the resources to do that? Before, it would have been the local executives of the party, the statutory members of the party, and some other, people that delegates, that would come where we have a sizable number that can be managed. Now it's a case where they say it's either consensus or, or direct promise. That we're not happy about. And that was one of the things that was one of the bone of contention in the Electoral Act. The second one again is the electronic transmission of results, and with that one, we want these results transmitted in real time. We want results that we can rely upon. We want results that nobody goes at the back of the day, at the end of the day, goes at the back to change the results. And we fought tooth and nail to have this result transmitted where it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we can actually have access to these results in real time. The argument was that they have places where you may not have network, but that does not mean you cannot still send the result. Once you send the result in the polling unit, the moment you get to a place where you have network, it filters in, it goes in, and everybody has access to it. But right now, they have created this lacuna, this legal lacuna, which I think, it gives the room for people, for the results to be tampered with. And that's our concern. We're not happy about that. We would have preferred a situation where these results are sent right from the polling unit in the presence of all the polling agents, where they can all, vouch that this is the correct result that, from this polling unit. So right now, we have that gap where we don't know what can be done with it. And you see, not only that, there are certain things in the act, because during the time where we said, for people that tamper with the results of the election, we wanted to increase the penalty to both a huge fine and also imprisonment. My colleagues, my APC colleagues, turned it down. That was one of the amendments that was read, and I think it was read by Honorable Dasuki from Sokoto. It was turned down, which means, all we're trying to do is that even if you change the result. I think the penalty is 50,000 naira or something, and that's really ridiculous and very unbelievable. What they're saying is that if you cannot be a member of two political parties at the same time. So what that means is that once the digital register is submitted to INEC, it means you are locked down in that party. So before, prior to that, hitherto, people if you believe this party is not, aligned with what you want, you have the free. We previously had the freedom to move to a different party, but right now, once you're locked down in that party, you cannot move to another party because you're not on the register of the new party. So it's very restrictive, and I think it runs contrary to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria because there should be freedom of association, freedom of movement within the country. You can do whatever it is you want to do as long as it's within the armpits of the law. So we're not happy about so many things that that are in that electoral act. And I think, and something else that's very interesting is how we have mellowed down. We have downplayed the penalties for forgery, and that's very incredible. I mean, if you forge your certificate and you get elected, before we had stiffer penalties, now we have reduced the penalties on that. And I think all these things is just a consistent pattern that would not really be helpful to our great nation, Nigeria, and we're very concerned about it. With the Federal Correctional Committee, we're doing our best to fulfill our mandate. And as far as the House of Representatives is concerned, our role there is oversight. And we're doing whatever it is that we need to do, but we are very concerned. We're very concerned about the inability of this commission to expend. When we say expend, we're not talking about. We're talking about the capital component of the budget. As at today, as at this moment, the 2025 budget, the capital component of the 2025 budget has not been expended in any way. I can tell you as of today, all we are taking care of is just expenses, recurrent expenditure, and things like that. And I think this is really not good for the economy. So nothing really has been done. When we have a country where the needs of a commission or the needs of the agencies, needs of ministries, needs of parastatals or departments are not being met, it just means they're there just collecting salaries, and it's very difficult for them to be able to operate in that kind of situation. So we're very concerned.
Now, what exactly is the exclusive legislative list? It is one of the key pillars of Nigeria's federal system, defining what only the federal government can legislate upon. To break it down, Chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business, Francis Waive, explains.
As the name implies, the exclusive legislative list are those things that only the federal government, acting through the National Assembly, can legislate upon. Things like defense. There can't be an army belonging to each state. There's only one Nigerian army, for instance. There's only one Nigerian navy, for instance. There's only one Nigerian Air Force. So those ones are on the exclusive list of legislative list. Only the federal government can act in those respects. And only the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Representatives can make laws in respect to such matters. Matters that have to do with the currency of the country, for instance. Those are on the exclusive legislative list. So there's no state in this country or local government that can begin to make laws regarding currency, regarding diplomatic missions abroad, for instance. All those are exclusively reserved for the federal, for the National Assembly.
This week on You and Your Reps, the committee segment turns the spotlight on reformatory institutions. Chairman of the committee, Chinedu Ogah, speaks on the budget and the infrastructure gaps in the sector.
The capital budget of Correctional Service is not something to write home about. Because we have been clamoring for the increase of the budget, but it looks as if because people are not showing concern, the executive are not showing concern, the general public are not showing concern because they are not affected. The truth of it is that is a correction center. That is where all these things will budget trillions of money to defense, will budget to police. The end product of those they arrested and prosecuted end up in correction service. A situation by which those people are not properly rehabilitated is still turned around to the society. We are creating more insecurity. Why can't we look inward, give appropriate budget to correction service in making sure the 63,000 capacity are completed where you have the congestion, by making sure the rehabilitations, the farm settlements, the skill acquisition are properly financed, and so many other products will now yield. For a case study, look at what UNODC have done in Maiduguri. Now they have made in correction service products because they're able to devote their money, renovate, rehabilitate, and create an avenue in which most of those people in a correction service produce some things, uniforms and other things, and created an outlet, build outlet outside within the metropolis of Maiduguri, where most of those things are displayed and sold to the public. You see revenue being generated. 10 billion cannot do anything, cannot even construct one correction service. That is what is the capital project of correction service. Between me and you today, can 1,120 something, 125,000 feed you a day?
125 naira.
Yeah, 125 naira cannot feed you a day. We are appealing that let them increase it to 5,000. When you divide 5,000 by 3 times daily, it will give you what? Minus VAT and tax, 13.5% VAT and tax. You will find at the end, what will remain is 3,500 for feeding. Meals per meal, you'll be having 1,200 per meal. Can you buy a meal of 1,200? Where you're feeding people your things that you are rehabilitating. Let us be firm and tell ourselves the truth. There is a lot of places where they're putting money that is not valued. If we really would don't want crime to continue in Nigeria, the presidency, the executive, should look inward in correction service. The executive should look inward in correction service. They should look the contributory pension, contributory fund from the government of each of the 36 states, include FCT, and put it in the correction service. Now there is no vehicle to carry me to court. There is no court in Kuje. Every mate they bring him from Kuje to FCT. And when you see all the correction service people doing all this, now we're entering rain season. Their quotas are not something to write home about. All liquidated. How do you think that someone, a person that living in such area, can take care of an inmate? They are risking their own life. I'm urging Mr. President, he should do an intervention to the correction service. If an act is properly implemented, it will reduce crime, in which those inmates here have the skills, they are being trained, and a lot of things are done. If such a person is trained and being given out to his skills, it will not indulge into crime. But when the person go there, you starve him and make him harder, he will be more think of going back to crime. So, and I'm equally urging most of other big businessmen to channel their social responsibility business into correction service, rehabilitate some cells, build some cells, build some skills, rehabilitate of the farm settlement. Even if it's possible, creating out PPP in all those farm settlements, it will help. Correction service don't supposed to be buying their food. If at all the farm settlement are being rehabilitated and built, it will help. What do you think that 10 billion will do? 10 billion cannot even complete the 3,000 capacity in Karachi. It cannot complete the one in Bro in River State. It cannot complete the one in so many other, the one of Abia, and so many. And that is the budget for all, almost about 200 something correction centers.
And that's you and your reps for this week. Thanks for watching. I am Victor Azu. Join us again.